Hello, everyone. Bonjour tout le monde, and thank you for tuning in today for this very exciting announcement. My name is Andy Fillmore. I'm the Parliamentary Secretary to Canada's Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, Catherine McKenna, and I also have the great privilege of serving as the Member of Parliament for Halifax. Now, before we start today's session, I've just been asked to go over a few housekeeping details. First of all, around Zoom, a friendly reminder that you can see and hear us, but we can't see or hear you. So we're looking forward to a very interesting and constructive discussion today. So if you have questions during the session, please pop them into the chat box. And I hope that you will do that, because we'll be incorporating your questions into the panel discussion that comes later in this session. Our session is going to be recorded today, and it's going to be available to view on the Healthy Communities Initiative website after the session. Today's session is available in English, in French, ASL, and LSQ. And to access the French and English interpretation, you'll just see a little insignia of a globe at the bottom of your screen. And if you click on that globe, you can select between French and English. If you just leave it on the globe, you'll hear whatever language is being spoken by the speakers. Our panelists will be speaking in their preferred language, a mixture of both English and French. So use that setting to your liking. To view the ASL and LSQ interpreters, just switch your video to gallery view. Then you can see the interpreters as they do their fine work. Now, because our session is 90 minutes today, the ASL and LSQ interpreters will be working one at a time and will come on and off screen to switch off briefly throughout the session as they spell one another. If you'd like to ask a question in ASL or LSQ, please let us know in the chat box at the bottom of the screen so that we can enable your video to do so. Okay, so with all of that housekeeping, let's move ahead with the reason that we're all here today. We have an exciting announcement about the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative, and following that, a very interesting and dynamic panel discussion. To begin with, we want to take a moment, however, to acknowledge and reflect on the land upon which we reside and work. To that end, I'm pleased to welcome Elder Claudette Commanda, an Algonquin Anishinaabe from Kitigan Zibi Anishinaabe First Nation. She has dedicated her career to promoting First Nations rights, history, and culture. Elder Commanda is known to many of us, and it's wonderful to have her here with us today. She is a devoted and inspiring mentor. And Elder Commanda has taught at the University of Ottawa's Institute of Women's Studies, at the Faculty of Law, the Faculty of Education, and the Aboriginal Studies program, teaching courses on First Nations women, Native education, First Nations people and history, Indigenous traditions, and decolonization. When she's not doing that, she's also the executive director of the First Nations Confederacy of Cultural Education Centers and has previously served on the Board of Governors for the First Nations University of Canada. She's also served on the Kitigan Zibi Band Council on 3 separate occasions. It's my great pleasure to welcome you, Elder Commanda.
Thank you. Thank you for that beautiful introduction. I could feel, your energy and your enthusiasm and the care and the love that you have for people and the communities you represent and for all Canadians. So I truly appreciate that. I appreciate the organizers for their respect of the Algonquin people and asking me to come in here and bring you words of a welcome and words of blessings. So miigwech for that. I truly appreciate that. It is said when we come together with that one mind and one heart and one love for one another and respect. And I greet each and every one of you beautiful people, and I begin by saying, Kwe kakina, Kwe nichkiwe dog, Kwe anishnabeg, Bijajikoma anishnabeg ki omama weneniwa. Bonjour tout le monde, bonjour, toutes mes amis, mes frères, mes sœurs. Bienvenue ici.
Everyone, all my friends, brothers and sisters, to this ancestral territory of the Algonquin Nation. As usual, I'm very proud to do this introduction and to give my benediction, my blessings.
My people, the nation of the Algonquins, to welcome each and every one of you beautiful people from coast to coast to coast to this unsurrendered homeland of the Algonquin people, the land that is held in trust for our children today and tomorrow, the land and the teachings that are so connected to the land, and the strength and the love that is connected to the land and from the land that was entrusted onto us since time immemorial from the Creator for our children. I acknowledge the lands of Indigenous peoples from coast to coast to coast. I acknowledge my first ancestors, those Algonquin ancestors, as I acknowledge each and every one of your ancestors. It does not matter where we come from. We all have ancestors, and let us always remember our ancestors, for they guide us, they uphold us, they love us. It is also said when we come together, when two or more come together, we put our mind, we put our heart, we put our voice together as what we call prayer. And at this time, I will raise my voice to the Creator on behalf of all who are here to bring forth a blessing for each and every one of you. And I say, Chimi Gwaj Gishimanado Onje Nongum, Mi Gwaj Gishimanado Kina Kego, Mi Gwaj Jojoaki, Mi Gwaj Kokamista Pikizis, Mi Gwaj Mishomiskizis. And Nabigis Gishimanado, and Nabigis Widokbashnang Onje Kakina, Nongo Mashishwabang, Das Pinigan Kokamisag, Das Pinigan Mishomsag, Mi Gwaj, Ni Buksendam Gishimanado, Ni Buksendam Onje. Kakina nongo mashkawiziwin minapamadzwin ashizagiyidwin. Creator, we come together and we raise our voice to you, Creator, through prayer, as we thank you for everything that you've blessed us with. And Creator, we thank our Mother, the Earth, our Father, our grandfather, Sun, our grandmother, the Moon, and all of creation that Mother Earth has provided to us. And Creator, my prayer for all who are here, continue to bless them, Creator, with that good life. Continue to bless them, Creator, with strength. Continue to bless them, Creator, with hope and vision. And we pray for our leaders, all the leaders, to uphold them and give them that strength, for indeed they are representing the people, the communities. We come together, Creator, with that one voice, with that one heart and that one mind and one determination. And that is to build and support communities for all Canadians, Creator, all Canadians, and we thank you. We thank you, Creator, for Indigenous peoples. We thank you, Creator, for Canadian people, and we thank you for your love and your generosity. And Creator, my prayer for all who are here, that you continue to bless them with safety, with good health, and they embrace and continue walking with the 7 grandfathers: love, wisdom, respect, courage, humility, honesty, and truth. And may we walk hand in hand as brothers and sisters for the benefit of our children. Me, wedge kishimanado onje, kina, kinawin, emiyawin, chimi, wedge. Thank you. Thank you. Me, wedge. Have a good meeting and keep up the good work. You are all beautiful, wonderful people, and it's about community, that spirit of community. We come together in a spirit of unity, kindness, and love, for indeed the people are so important. So keep up the good work, leaders. I truly admire you. Thank you. Miigwech.
Thank you so much, Elder Commander. Miigwech to you. And as is said in the Mi'kmaq language, Imsid Nogama, which is all my relations, and you captured that so beautifully there in your finale to your wonderful opening. Thank you for being with us. It's always a pleasure to hear your wisdom and your words. I'd like to add that I'm joining today from Halifax in Mi'kma'ki, the ancestral and unceded territory of the Mi'kmaq people, where we are all treaty people. I'm also pleased to be joined today by my friend and colleague, Minister Catherine McKenna, Canada's Minister of Infrastructure and Communities, who's joining us from Ottawa and the riding of Ottawa Centre, which she represents in the House of Commons, as well MP Will Amos, who represents Pontiac, is with us as well. And I just have to say, I'm watching the participant numbers. We're closing in rapidly on 300, and I'm seeing all the greetings coming in from literally every corner of the country. Welcome to everybody, and thank you for giving us some of your valuable time today. We're really grateful for that. So now we've all done a number of these virtual events in recent months, haven't we? And it speaks volumes, I think, to the year that we've all had. We've had to adapt the way that we work and connect with each other, with Canadians, with friends, with family. And just like all of you have had to adapt, and this adaptation is exactly why we're here today. Throughout the past year, we have seen Canadians adapt to the challenges of this pandemic in myriad ways. The Canada Healthy Communities Initiative was created to really harness that creative energy and support local projects that could have a really big impact quickly to help with some of the local effects in our communities of the pandemic. Communities have responded to the CHCI in just the way that we had hoped, and the homegrown innovations and solutions that we've seen have been so incredibly impressive, and I have to say, even heartwarming. So I think on that note, I'd like to hand the virtual microphone over to Minister McKenna so she can say a few words. Minister.
Great. Well, thank you very much, Andy Fillmore. You really are the best parliamentary secretary, and I really appreciate all your passion. I'm coming to all of you today from the traditional unceded territory of the Algonquin and Anishinaabe peoples, and a special thank you to Elder Commander, who I know very well, for the prayer and the welcome, and also the emphasis on the spirit of community, because that is really what we're talking about here, enabling community and working together. So Miigwech, Elder Commander. I'm also pleased to be joined with so many other awesome people. Well, I'm looking at the side, everyone who's joining in. Hello, Nadine. I can go through all, it's just amazing to see the engagement here. So keep it up. We all need to be working together. It's been a really hard time, but certainly this engagement I'm seeing is pretty awesome. I'm very happy to be here with Will Amos. He's the MP for Pontiac, a very good friend, also a huge champion for climate change. He's been so awesome. I also understand Greg Fergus, Member of Parliament for Hull Elmer, is here as well. He is just so awesome in terms of community buildings and making sure that we are very inclusive in our approach for all communities. Melanie Thomas, Vice President of Community Foundations of Canada. Hi, Melanie, and Mary Rowe, President and CEO of the Canadian Urban Institute, and everyone else. Hello, everyone. Bonjour à tous. Je suis tellement heureuse d'être ici avec vous.
Hi, everyone. I'm very happy to be here with you.
It's been a really hard time. I don't think there's any way we can sugarcoat it. The challenges, I mean, people dying, but people having to not see friends, family. I know it's very hard for me not seeing my parents, so I can imagine many of you feel like that. Kids at home, which is hard for the kids. It's also hard for the parents, to be honest. Folks not being able to just go out and enjoy life. Having said that, one of the things that I've been really heartened by, and I think it was really the inspiration behind the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative, was recognizing that local communities are coming up with amazing ways to help folks adapt and thrive through COVID-19, but also beyond. And so while, you know, I'm responsible for major investments in infrastructure, and if you live in the GTA, we just made a very big investment in public transit, but we're doing that across the country. We also know that we need to enable smaller initiatives, community initiatives, and that's why we adapted some of our funding to enable smaller initiatives that you guys are all engaged with, which I love, and it's making such a huge difference in your communities. Alors, un grand merci à vous, premièrement, pour tout le travail.
Well, thank you very much for the work you're doing.
My title is Minister of Infrastructure, but it's also Minister of Communities. And I think communities they're really what we make of them. And all of you have stepped up to make awesome communities in the most challenging time. So that gets me to today's announcement. You're probably wondering, okay, is she going to stop talking? I'm going to talk about what we're doing announcing today. Hopefully get you excited and get you engaged. So the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative, as you probably know, supports smaller projects. 100% of the funding comes from the federal government And it's for projects between $5,000 and $250,000. It's being administered by the Community Foundations in Canada with a great team, with great advisors. So great thanks to them. And it has already supported, we just launched it not that long ago. It's already supported over 250 community-driven projects across the country, including one in our area over on the other side of the river in Gatineau that I know maybe Will Amos is going to talk more about, but $40,000 for the Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, also known as CPAWS, their project to build a 30-kilometer trail linking Grand Chute to the Ottawa River that residents can hike and enjoy. Alors, je suis très heureuse d'annoncer que le financement fédéral accordé dans le cadre...
Very happy that the federal government has announced within the Healthy Communities Initiative has supported more than 250 projects, so a lot of community projects all across Canada, which includes $40,000 for the CPAWS, Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society project that will build a 30-kilometer trail in Grand Chute in the Ottawa region, where residents will be able to walk, they'll be able to take advantage of nature. I know that my friend and colleague will talk more into detail about that initiative.
Launching the second intake of the program of the Canada Healthy Communities Initiative. So get your projects in there, spread the word in your communities, because we want innovative community-based projects that will help us adapt through COVID-19. And the good news is I think we're looking towards the end of it, but we still have work to do, but also will help us in the future. Alors, je vais annoncer aujourd'hui aussi que nous...
But I'm also going to announce that we are launching a second round of funding in the framework of this program. We're organizing organizations to submit community projects that are innovative, that will contribute to the adaptation during this pandemic of COVID-19 and for the future as well.
You guys know best, but some of the opportunities we've seen, it can be outdoor art installations, child-centric community gardens, walking trail expansions, pop-up farmers markets, access to technology. Projects that are coming from a huge diversity of groups is really important because we have to serve everyone. Des installations artistiques en plein air,
artistic outdoor installations, community gardens focused on children, increasing the network of trails in nature and access technology.
The federal government is providing $31 million to support local projects across the country. That's building more sustainable, more inclusive communities, and it's also providing good jobs and opportunities for all. So huge congratulations, and I just love seeing the side chat. So talk about your ideas, talk about what you think some opportunities are, how you're going to spread the word in your community. And the last thing I would say is that we will get out of this pandemic. I know some days it seems really hard, and I know I feel it too. And I look at my kids and it's really hard for them, and it's hard for people who live alone. It's just hard for everyone, but we will get out of this. And then we've got to build back better. And we also know that we will still have a climate crisis, and we're going to have to tackle that with the same passion, focus, coming together, listening to science and scientists, but we can do it too. And we can also build more sustainable, inclusive communities by working with grassroots local organizations who have awesome ideas that the federal government could never think of, but are happy to support. So anyway, with that, I'm handing it back. Sadly, I have to go, but it's just awesome to see everything you guys are doing, the positive spirit, and let's just get going.
Thanks so much, Minister, and for all you've done to back up this program and to make it possible. And we wish you success with the next challenge that you're off to. I'm sure it's something excellent. Now, we've moved confidently past 300 participants in on the call today. So we are actually creating that beautiful community that Elder Commanda talked about, that she spoke about. And so I think it's very fitting that I now have the privilege of introducing the President of Community Foundations of Canada Andrea Dix, who is going to speak to us about what CHCI is. Andrea, the floor is yours.
Thank you so much. It's lovely to be here with all of you again. I'm definitely enjoying the chats and all of the different ideas and questions that are coming forward as well. I am here today on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation also, and I'm grateful to have the opportunity to be here with you today and to present in this territory. At Community Foundations of Canada, or CFC as we call it, we believe that innovations and solutions are best found in the community, which is what we're talking about today. They are created by the community, they are driven by the community, they are led by the community. And my goodness, communities have stepped up with a tremendous amount of enthusiasm for the Healthy Communities Initiative. As was mentioned, we received over 3,000 applications, totaling more than $360 million in requests. The number of applications and the stories behind these applications are a testament to the creativity and resourcefulness and care that organizations and citizens have for working to strengthen their communities and respond to this pandemic. So we know that public spaces are the glue to our communities. They enable a feeling of belonging. They are about fostering social cohesion. And COVID-19 has seriously constrained our access to and use of these spaces all across the country in every single community. And we also know that the impacts of the virus have been extraordinarily uneven. The virus itself has underscored inequalities across communities and is disproportionately impacting those who are already experiencing vulnerability as a result of systemic inequalities. So the projects through the Healthy Communities Initiative are about creating safe and vibrant public space for all, improving mobility options for all, and providing digital solutions for all. The over 250 projects that have been funded in the first round are truly extraordinary, and we get to hear about some of these today. But before we get to that, we know that there are still many great ideas and projects out there. And as Minister McKenna mentioned, today we are opening round 2. The portal is open, it's live, you can apply. The link will be posted in the chat. We know that you have a lot of questions. There are some webinars and community mobilization opportunities coming in the coming weeks. The schedule for that is also on the website. Please check it out. We really want to ensure that you have the opportunity to apply and have all of your questions asked in advance. Also important to note that the application portal is live as of today, and it will close on June the 25th. So before I turn it back to the rest of today's exciting announcements, I just want to say thank you to a few folks. First of all, to the Government of Canada for supporting the Healthy Communities Initiative. This is doing good things in our communities, and we need this. Also to community foundations. And I saw a bunch of community foundations saying hi in the chat. So hi friends, thank you for everything that you have been doing. To our network of incredible partners, some of which you will hear from today. Thank you for everything that you have done to make this initiative possible. And finally, to everyone who submitted an application. We know it takes a lot of time and a lot of heart to do that. So thank you for stepping up for your community and doing that. We're looking forward to working with you and moving forward. Back to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Andrea. That's a wonderful snapshot of the intention and the actuality of what CHCI is and has become. So thank you very much for that description. I want to now welcome a gentleman. Will Amos is the MP for Pontiac. Will regularly rides his bicycle from Pontiac across the river to the House of Commons. So he's a guy who understands healthy communities very deeply. MP Will Amos, over to you, please.
Thanks, Andy, for the introduction. So amazing to be with you guys today. A pleasure to join both you and Catherine and so many community leaders from across Canada. I feel quite humbled Before I go further, a special Kichi Miigwech to Claudette, on whose Algonquin Nation's traditional and unceded territory I sit today and most every day, since I live in the bedroom community of Chelsea, near just north of Gatineau. The federal riding of Pontiac is wholly in Algonquin territory, and so great appreciation for Claudette Commanda's wonderful words. Malgré tous les défis qu'elle a entraînés, cette
Despite all
pandémie,
the challenges that this COVID-19 pandemic has brought, it has allowed us to understand the importance of the community space. Throughout Canada, community organizations have played such an important role by uniting people. And through these organizations, such as this one, we are working to reduce the impact of the pandemic. It's with you that we're doing this. We're all working together to protect lives and support families, individuals, and businesses from one ocean to another. We need to start over. We need to look towards the future. That's what we need to do. It's not easy, but we need to invest in smart infrastructure that fulfill several functions. That's the key to economic growth, the fight against climate change and reduction of social inequalities, and guarantee of better life quality for all. That's what we need to do. That's why we're here today. The Healthy Communities Initiative is focused on communities. The goal is to unite people in a healthy way while we are fighting against the pandemic and looking towards the future. Communities are at the forefront, first line of the pandemic. They are the ones that have the best understanding of their own needs. Community organizations are at the base of most prosperous communities, and we want to support their efforts. This program was built to focus on local projects of smaller scope that can have a quick and important impact to help face some of the local effects of the pandemic in three different aspects, including the mobility options. And we turn towards these organizations to look at to listen to the proposals. We were very impressed by the quantity of proposals.
Climate change, an economic restart. That's why I'm so happy to be here to announce the financing by this program of the trail linking the Grand Chute on the Des Moines River all the way down 20 kilometers to the Outaouais River. This is a small project. It's a project with a financing of $24,000, but it's a big project for Pontiac. The community of Rapide des Joachins has 350 people, roughly. It's a small community, and the Des Moines River is their biggest asset. It's one of the few undammed rivers left in southern Quebec. It's a legendary paddling river. The Prime Minister himself has paddled it in the last 24 months. It is fabulous. And so to have a trail that can go all the way up the west side, up to Grand Chute, is something that's very special for our region. Et tout le monde qui connaît l'Outaouais,
everybody who knows the Ottawa River and region, whether it's the Gatineau Park, the Gatineau River, the Ottawa River, the Coulonge River, etc., it's a place where natural spaces are so beautiful, and tourism, ecotourism are essential to our future. It's also close to Algonquin Park and the Gatineau Park, but these parks are very busy parks. We've developed other places where people can go take a break and to be outdoors. This project is going to build 15 to 20 kilometers to a historic trail. It's a trail that was used in the past by the forestry industry and, of course, by the Algonquin Nation.
There is a real historic connection here. And one of my constituents, a real leader in the region around trail building on the Des Moines, who's actually written the history of the Des Moines River, Wally Shaber, he has been so great on this project, and it's through efforts that he has brought with tons of volunteers and also through Canadian Parks and Wilderness Society, who we'll hear from right after, doing such a great job of bringing community together, creating something for a region that needs it, and bringing an opportunity to all Canadians to discover a piece of important history. Alors, on sait très bien que
So we know very well that the challenges brought about by the COVID-19 showed that the community spirit bringing about huge resilience all across Canada. Communities in all provinces have deployed huge effort to bring support, compassion, and hope in this uncertain time. So this Canadian initiative for healthy communities is going to help a lot of communities to uphold that spirit and help Canadians and their families take advantage of their community in a more inclusive environment.
I would like to invite John McDonald, the Executive Director of the CPAW's Ottawa Valley chapter, to say a few words about the importance of this investment for the Ottawa Valley. And I would like to thank John McDonald for his tremendous leadership over so many years to bring more conservation to the Des Moines River watershed. He's done a great job, and I'm really proud he's here with us today. Merci beaucoup.
Thank you very much.
Thank you, Will. I'd like to start by saying good afternoon to everyone. I'm joining you I'm also joining from the Algonquin, the traditional unceded Algonquin territory here in the Outaouais. I'd like to begin by taking a moment to thank Will, to thank Minister McKenna and Secretary Fillmore for the federal government's leadership, the renewed commitment to protecting 25% of our lands and waters by 2025, and also the historic investment of $2.3 billion in budget 2021 to support conservation and really support conservation on the ground. We are seeing the results of those investments in the Pontiac region, where CPAW's Ottawa Valley and our partner Credo are working to establish new protected areas, not only on the Des Moines River, but also the Noir and Coulonge rivers. And these projects will protect the rich natural heritage of the Pontiac, but also create jobs and bring investment to the region. And so the project for which we're receiving funding today really builds on those efforts to now create opportunities to connect people to nature. Now that we've been able to protect these spaces, let's connect people to them. And so I'd like to thank Community Foundations of Canada and their partners for the confidence shown in our initiative, which, as Will was explaining, aims to restore a historic but long abandoned wagon road trail into a new hiking, ski and snowshoe trail. And while, CPAWS is probably best known for our work, our conservation work, we also firmly believe in connecting people to nature. And the pandemic has shown just how important nature is to Canadians from coast to coast to coast. There's a real need to provide opportunities to connect people to nature, and particularly in rural and remote areas like the Pontiac. And so we're really pleased to be partnering with Wally Shaber, the Friends of Des Moines River, and other organizations to help launch this great initiative, this 32-kilometer trail. This route will take visitors through some of the region's most spectacular scenery, waterfalls, rapids, wetlands, old-growth forests. It's truly a spectacular region. And in some locations, the trail will borrow portage routes that have been in constant use for over 5,000 years. So it's a very powerful place. And in addition to creating employment opportunities, particularly for youth who will learn about conservation and gain valuable employability skills, The project will also benefit both Pontiac County, but also Renfrew County in Ontario in many ways. I mean, it will boost the tourism offer of the region. And, while rivers like the Des Moines, Noir, and Coulanges are well known, they're among the best whitewater rivers anywhere in North America. The trail will open new opportunities for other types of recreationalists to discover the region and provide local residents with a safe, inclusive, and inspiring destination to support active living. And, the unfortunate irony of, many rural and remote regions is that while they're surrounded by spectacular nature, there's actually very little in the way of infrastructure to support safe and sustainable access. And, this project aims to take on that issue. And furthermore, a series of trilingual education panels will be installed in English, French, and Algonquin, which will tell the story of the Des Moines River and further help visitors and residents understand just how significant this watershed is from a cultural and ecological perspective. And so with that, I'd like to thank you once again for your support. I'm looking forward to sharing the positive impacts of this project with everyone in the coming months. And hopefully once the pandemic is behind us, if you're in the Pontiac region, I really encourage you to visit these locations.
Thanks so much, John, and thank you, Will. I really appreciate those remarks. And as you can see from some of the project details that John shared, the CHCI really is a special program enabling some amazing community-led projects to occur. I'm just going to note that there are a number of questions cropping up in the chat dialogue box, and I know that the folks from Community Foundations of Canada are working as fast as I can to try to answer them. Many of the questions are about program administration, and so they will get back to you. Some of the questions are about metrics, how many projects, what's the dollar value. Hold fast, okay? We're going to be able to share all of that shortly. There's just an enormous amount of data to present, so we're going to get that up on the website in the coming days and weeks. So hold fast on that. And for questions specific to your application experience, speak to the CFC folks. There was one question that does fall into the political realm that I wanted to address just very briefly, which was, based on the number of applications we've seen over a vast number of applications in the first intake, it does point to the need. And the question was, well, does this indicate that there might be more funding coming? Don't know the answer to that yet, but a lot of people working hard to find more funding. So please stay tuned on that. It's clear that the need is necessary. Now, when we first launched it and asked Canadians to pitch their community-led ideas on CHCI, I don't think any of us imagined this enormous response that we'd get. But who knows their neighborhoods better than the people who live in them, and what those neighborhoods need to improve the quality of life for their residents, not just during COVID-19, but beyond and going into the future, into recovery. So with this funding, communities have been able to create or to expand things like community gardens to provide healthy, affordable food. Some are installing free Wi-Fi hotspots in public spaces so that more people can get online and stay connected. And there's this fundamental question about equal access there, isn't there? Or like one of our recent recipients, Hope Blooms, here in Halifax, which has its sights set on a new playground and accessible seating area in Murray Washington Park, right on the Halifax Peninsula. Now, Hope Blooms is a nonprofit based in Halifax with a foundation in community engagement and social equity. And despite COVID-19 forcing the transformation of its program last year, Hope Blooms has used the pandemic as an opportunity to come back better than ever. Leveraging CHCI, they are going to create a safe and vibrant space for youth, for families, for seniors, all to engage and to connect and enjoy the outdoors in a safe way. It's, I have to say, so inspiring to see community groups like this pitch such a worthwhile project that will have such a big impact, intergenerational impact on their community. It's projects like this that make our communities more livable, more resilient, and more sustainable places to live and work and play. Now, as Minister McKenna said, round 2 starts today. So keep those great ideas coming. And if you have the good luck in the first round, apply again. There's no harm in that. And Community Foundations of Canada is now accepting those proposals and is ready to review your application to help get that project started, to help you improve the quality of life for residents in your community as we navigate through the end of this pandemic. So on the note of Hope Blooms, I'd now like to pass the virtual microphone over to Kolade Kolawol-Buboye, who is the Director of Alumni Youth at Hope Blooms here in Halifax, to tell us a little bit more about their project. Over to you, Kolade.
Thank you, Andy. That was a great introduction. Hi, everyone. My name is Kolade Kolawol-Buboye. I'm one of the founding youths of Hope Blooms. I've been a part of Hope Blooms since I was 8 years old. I am now 21. I'm going my 4th year of business at CNFX, and I'm also a co-founder of my own record label based in Halifax, Nova Scotia, called LDN Records. Okay, Hope Blooms was created in 2008 with a mission in mind of engaging youth ages 5 to 18 to become positive agents of change in their communities. Hope Blooms has provided a safe space for youth in Halifax inner city to grow to their full potential, and it means to grow their own food through mentorship and community gardens. This has resulted in us growing over 3,000 pounds of organic produce each year, all free for our community. Hope Blooms facilitates 3 youth-led social enterprises, with all proceeds going into education and food security. We are proud to announce the opening of our Global Kitchen for Social Change that is neighboring our off-the-grid greenhouse, which I helped design in 2015. This is all surrounding our garden and creating a vibrant and rich space for youth and community members. We have a saying, when you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. Now we're going to move on to why we want to get the playground. In the past year, the local schools, Joseph Howell Elementary, has increased the students' numbers from 125 to 270 children, most of which live in Uniacke Square, the community adjacent to Memorial Warrington Park, where the Hope Blooms campus is located on. Currently, there's no infrastructure in place for youth and families and seniors to enjoy the park. This has forced the children to not engage in play, which, according to studies and research, helps encourage physical activity, builds self-confidence, provides an emotional and physical outlet, improves social skills, and boosts cognitive development. Now you probably ask yourself, what is the impact of this? Well, children who engage in outdoor play benefit from the physical and social aspects of community playgrounds, and other benefits include building a sense of community and creates opportunities for parents to engage with their children and develop social skills. It even goes beyond that. We're going to have food growing in between the 3 playground pods in the park, so there's easy access to food that people can enjoy while at the playground. The nearby seating structures for seniors and families will provide a space to enjoy and engage in outdoor activities, which can help improve cognitive and physiological performance for seniors who are being disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. I want to thank you guys again for us being a recipient of this. We were very generous of this. I want to give it back to Andy. Thank you.
Thanks so much, Kolade. I have to say, we're all so proud of you and the other youth leaders and the youth participants of Hope Blooms for what you've achieved over the last number of years. And to folks on the call, if you have a minute and you want to have your heart lifted up, just Google Hope Blooms Halifax and check out the story, or enter that search into YouTube. It's unbelievable, really. Congrats again, Kolade. And I
thank you very much, Andy.
You got it. Can't wait to see you and the gang down there at the park and in the garden when it's safe to.
We can't wait to see you guys too.
We're going to move it along here now, and I'm going to hand over the MC duties to Mary Rowe, CEO of the Canadian Urban Institute, so we can get into our panel. Mary, the floor is now yours.
Hi, Andy. Nice to see you. I'm very impressed you're wearing a jacket. Just saying, I'm glad you dressed up for today, and you've got those lovely flags behind you. We've been so fortunate to have your leadership on all these files, Andy, as urban environments across the country and smaller communities have been struggling with COVID. So I just want to say hats off to you. You stuck with it. You're a great advocate for a community-based policymaking and community-based solutions, and this program is really indicative of that. So thanks. Really glad to have you. And I'm going to invite our other folks to come on the line and join us. I'm in Toronto. We've got a handful of panelists here who are going to offer some perspective and expertise. I'm in Toronto. The Canadian Urban Institute is a national organization, but I happen to be in Toronto today, which is the traditional territory of a number of First Nations, Inuit, and Métis. We're covered under the Treaty 13 and the Williams Treaties, and we are home to the Mississaugas of the Credit, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, the Wendat, and the Haudenosaunee. And, we continue at the CUI to be about building a movement of urbanists that are understanding how urban form, and Andy, you'll know this because you're a planner, urban forums have traditionally excluded people of color, racialized communities. They've been organized, our cities have gotten organized according to class and income and various struggles that we've had. And this initiative has been a way to push all of that down into the granular to see how communities can actually make changes in their local neighborhoods. It's a really important moment for Canada, if I could just say that, because we're persuading the federal government and its colleagues at the provincial government and municipal governments to realize that the best innovation and the most appropriate comes from the local. So thanks for joining all of us. I know that there are many on the chat and many tuning in here who are veterans to the Healthy Communities Initiative. You've attended all the mobilization sessions. You've been on all these announcements. And here we are hitting a benchmark where we're able to report on the first round of recipients to be announced and open the second round. The thing I just want to remind everybody about is that certainly from our perspective at CUI, and we have many partners, as you all know, that have been leading those mobilization sessions and supporting Community Foundations of Canada to support Infrastructure in Communities Canada to administer this program, that the position we're taking is that we're building a movement, folks. We're building awareness about why this matters and to get people to pay attention, as the minister said, that to build back better, it's these kind of interventions and this kind of mobilization that each of you is manifesting. And we have to educate folks and we have to persuade folks to invest in this kind of thing. So one of the dilemmas we've got is there are limited funds that are available. And what we're going to try to do is continue to push the movement forward to get more resources and identify more resources so that more of these initiatives can be funded. So those of you that are disappointed today because you weren't funded, you know you can reapply, but you also know that we're going to be there to support you to look for other kinds of resources, new kinds of ways to finance these things, and hopefully new kinds of revenue streams that can potentially be unlocked, because this is going to be critical as we recover from COVID and how important places and the physical city is. So joining me today, I'm so appreciative to have them, Emma, Jean-Philippe, Minnie, and Veronique. They're going to speak in English and in French. They're bringing different perspectives about in their role. One of the things that's so interesting about this program is it didn't just involve a few decision makers in Ottawa. It actually involved decision makers across the country. And it's mobilized hundreds of community foundations through Community Foundations of Canada. They then had local advisories and they had different kinds of processes to determine what their priorities would be. This is a fantastic moment where we can recognize that thousands of people actually know what placemaking is now. And they're thinking about how do they prioritize the initiatives in their community that they think would be most effective. And there's a gazillion of them. And we've got to try to, as I suggest, learn from each other and figure out how we continue to build momentum so that more of them can actually be realized. So I'm going to invite each of these folks to give us a little comment about what they've observed about the process, what they saw in terms of the kind of responses that they saw. I can see the translators, the SCL translator moving quickly to keep up with me, but I know we're under time constraint. We're going to ask them what they saw, what they've observed, and what they see as the challenges going forward, not only with round 2, but as we try to really harvest the learnings and make this more than just a government grant program. This has to be about changing the way we build communities, and I'm very appreciative the government kind of stepped out, but now we got to get everybody else to step with them. So can I go to you first, Veronique? Let's go to the west, coming into us from sunny Saskatchewan. And with that beautiful orange background behind you, and be unique right behind you. I love that piece behind you. So can you start and just give us a little bird's eye about who you are, first of all, who you're working for, and what you observe? That would be great.
Bonjour tout le monde. Donc, je suis
Hello, everyone. My name is Veronique Lowen. I'm in Saskatoon, on the unceded territory of Treaty 6. In the region of the Métis.
It's beautifully sunny and 20 degrees today. We're finally out of winter. I'm hailing from Treaty 6 territory and the homeland of the Métis. So yes, I am here as a representative of the Saskatoon Community Foundation, which was the hub for the entire province of Saskatchewan. And what a journey. Oh my gosh. When we started on this, when was that? 3 months ago, maybe, or in February, so 2 months ago, we had no idea what the uptake would be. And it's been phenomenal. It's been phenomenal in a way to see how communities come together, but it's also been a little bit, I would say, sad in a way to see the need that's out there. And so it's great to be able to try and respond, even in a small way, to this need. It's not small way, we're talking big dollars, but the need is so great. And so that's where the difficulty was for us as community foundations and various groups working through this project. Locally here, we received something like, I think it was about 150 or so, or a bit more requests. So for a province like Saskatchewan, that is a lot. And then obviously we couldn't give to them all. And so the process to go through them, we had 3 pillars as per the criteria to go with. And so we tried to first divide them up through the 3 pillars and then look at the content of each application. And things that struck us was the application where you could see collaborations. For us, that was big. So collaboration, whether it was with various communities, surrounding communities, different interest groups, collaboration with urban planners, for example, and that sort of thing. So collaboration was big. The way the projects came together, who was involved? Did you involve other groups? Maybe not just your organization, but consulted with others that may have an interest or may be able to bring a different perspective and input. That was important to us. I mean, I could go on. I don't know how long you'd like me to go on.
No, that's a good start. I mean, I think this is the interesting thing is, you've been through a cycle. It was very intense for community foundations. I know, I can see Emma nodding. They had to plow through a lot of proposals. And as you say, it's kind of hard to pick your children, your favorite children. But at the same time, I can appreciate you had to have some kind of way of looking at it. And as you have said and others have observed, one of the things that struck you was just the volume. And I also think the capacity of communities to be able to pull together and pull these proposals together. But as you suggest, partnerships, working with different kinds of communities. We know that equity was at the center of this call. And I know that that's a challenge for some folks. A lot of people in the city building world tend to not necessarily have relationships with equity seeking communities. So this initiative was to kind of push that. Minnie, do you want to talk to us a little bit about your perspective from the Network for the Advancement of Black People? What your kind of observation would be about the program, both in terms of reality, but also the potential as we move forward?
Yeah, absolutely. Thank you very much, Mary, for having me here. I'm delighted to be here. Just want to say that I'm from the traditional territories of the Huron-Wendat, the Anishinaabe, the Chippewa, and the Mississaugas of the Credit of First Nations. And I am from the Network of the Advancement of Black Communities. Yeah, I think our observation is maybe just to start by saying that we do know that the Black community is disproportionately affected by the COVID-19 pandemic. So being able to see some of these amazing projects by organizations that are Black focused, creating spaces for outdoor, for the community to meet outdoors, and some very interesting ways of using technology, to be able to engage the community to come together. That's really amazing. The question would be for us, as we look to the second round opening today, at the end of the second round, a question would be, how would we gauge the success of this initiative? And I think what would look like success is at least 3.5% of the funding, and I see 3.5%, which is the proportion of the Black community in the Canadian population, this funding being able to go to Black-led and Black-focused organizations. So we hope that in the second round, we'll have more Black-led organizations, Black-focused organizations, being able to collaborate. We talked about partnerships, the value of that. So we value partnerships. We understand and really appreciate that the challenges that the Black community is facing, the systemic barriers in infrastructure and in other sectors, is going to require collaboration of everybody in different sectors coming together to to work together and see that we are not perpetuating the difficulties that have been there in the past, that we are looking at a different way. When you think about recovery from the COVID-19 pandemic, we want to see it to be inclusive, inclusive of all communities. So allowing voices to be heard, Mary, you talked about how do we build a movement? It's by collaborating, listening to each other, and creating more room even for grassroots organizations. And it's wonderful to know that in this first round, we have more than 70% of the applicants from the nonprofit sector, which really does understand the needs of the community. So I will leave it at that. Happy to engage in more conversation. Yeah.
Thanks, Minnie. I think you're right, though, that the minister said build back better, but we know that one of the challenges is that the tendency is you build back the same. And then we'll have missed this window. We'll have missed this moment that for many of you, those of you younger than me and Andy, that it's, this is going to influence the rest of your lives, and this has to be the moment when we really make a determination that we're not going to build back same. So that means working with different folks. And I appreciate your comment that part of this too was moving away from the usual suspects developing these things to encouraging the not-for-profit sector, the charitable sector, different kinds of partnerships. It's been critical to do that. Emma, I'm interested from your perspective in Nova Scotia. What did you observe? And I also see there are lots of questions in the chat, folks, about the mechanics of the program. And I know that CFC and COI staff are trying to give you good responses. There are good websites for you to look at. And we're perfect is the enemy of the good. We're learning. There were little things that maybe weren't quite right in phase one that we're going to try to improve for phase two, including making sure that people have access to information and understand what's going on. So just want to encourage you, if you've got logistics questions like that, put them in the chat, and then the folks will respond to you and point you to where the answers are. Emma, talk to us about the experience in Nova Scotia. And Jean-Philippe, don't fall asleep because I'm coming to you next. Emma, tell us about your experience in Nova Scotia.
Thanks, Mary, and hi, everyone. Emma Credis, she, her, Elle from the Community Foundation of Nova Scotia, and we're located in Jibuktuk, Mi'kma'ki. We're really fortunate to have been able to collaborate with several other community foundations in our region to form the Atlantic Regional Hub to serve all 4 Atlantic Canadian provinces, the vast diversity of geography and language and culture that exists within those 4 provinces and the communities that exist therein. One of the things that we really tried to prioritize in round 1 was ensuring that the evaluation piece was done by people holding local knowledge. And so that meant that even though we were serving a large geographical region, we had representatives from urban, rural communities all across the 4 Atlantic provinces, and community members reading applications and evaluating applications from their own communities to be able to ensure that that local knowledge and was embedded in the process. And so we were really, really honored to have some just fabulous reviewers engaged in that process. We were completely overwhelmed and blown away by both the quality and quantity of applications that we received. Applications ranging from parks and trails projects to accessible playgrounds to digital solutions for accessible internet in rural communities. The variety of applications was really, really impressive, and the number of collaborations we saw was phenomenal. I'll certainly speak to Minnie's point, which I think was a really valuable one, that some of the strongest initiatives were those that were both led by in terms of design and development and serving equity deserving communities. And so that was a really, really key piece that we saw in round 1, and we'll be certain to look for in round 2. Those collaborations that Veronique was speaking to are another really key piece, between non-traditional players like nonprofits and charities, working with municipalities and other organizations. We saw several First Nations organizations step up and apply with some really fantastic applications as well. So a lot of valuable collaborations serving and led by communities disproportionately impacted by COVID-19. Lots more I could say as well, but hopeful we'll be able to answer some folks' questions as we keep going through.
Emma, one of those little secret hopes that I have is that all the folks that support community foundations across the country will be, just dazzled by what's come out of their communities, and that you folks will be able to leverage some additional resources so that the government of Canada's money is going to be also responded to by local philanthropy, right? And that we're growing a pool, and that maybe there are other kinds of sources of resources, maybe from different kinds of investment funds, or maybe the big bad banks might start taking these kinds of projects on. So I'm sure you think that way too. We've all got to think about all the different ways that we can skin this cat to get the kind of resorts. Me saying that about my cat who just went out into the balcony, about how we get more resources to support these kinds of initiatives. So don't lose heart, folks. Remember what we're doing. These are all about proof points to show why these kinds of investments make a real difference to people's lives. All right, Jean-Philippe, it's now your moment. You've been waiting. You're an urban planner. You're going to have something smart to say, and you're from Vive en Vieux, which is our great partner in trying to mobilize the community in this program. So speak to us en français, s'il vous plaît. And also, Yannick, en français, people are having trouble hearing you. Can you move your microphone or speak a little something or other so that the francophones will not be writing in the chat telling me they can't hear you? Go ahead, Jean-Philippe.
Merci, merci Marie, merci à tous.
Thank you, Mary. Thank you all. I'd like to say that I'm on the traditional unceded territory of the Huron-Wendat. I am in the city of Quebec. As you said, Mary, living in a city, well, Vivre en Ville, living in the city is a technical partner of this initiative. So we're supporting, especially in Quebec, we are the French microphone partner for the technical support of this initiative. So our role is to give tools to all the people who want to apply to the initiative. So our role is to make sure that the applicants can find the answers they're looking for, the answers to their questions, but also that they can see how they could submit the project, what types of projects they could propose. What I saw in the first round, which was very interesting, especially in projects that were submitted in Quebec, that we truly see the strength of transition infrastructure. That is taking a lot of room in the project. So the idea here is to set up temporary or transition public spaces to eventually give ideas to create more permanent public spaces. These the permanent public spaces were more generalized in the first round, but we realized that there are a lot of sustainable mobility projects here. This is a very, very important tool to respond to the COVID-19 pandemic. So I'd like to invite people to submit such projects, any projects that could help people better circulate on your main streets, in your neighborhoods, whether it's on foot, by bike. But that's another very important aspect, and the initiative could truly respond to that. So these projects might be a bit more complex to create, but sometimes you have partnerships with municipalities, given the fact that we're working on the public space, which is the street. But I wanted to say that this is the type of project that is very important, that we truly need in the present situation, but also we want to make sure that the future of our streets will be interesting in the future as well. So I'd also like to echo what Emma just said. People who want to apply at the second round, to these people, make sure you have a good relationship with the people in your community. That can truly help in your application. Make sure that you have an offer or a project that integrates the communities of your environment, of your neighborhood. Well, a good way to do that is to have an engagement agent in your project, someone that's going to take care of bridging the gap with other organizations. That's extremely important. these are the generic points, maybe too specific, that I wanted to give for this the first round. This is what we saw. It's a tip for the second round. Thank you.
Jean-Philippe, I think in addition to making sure that you're working with partners and you've got somebody who's identified whose role is to do that, obviously you want to have a good relationship with your local municipality or whoever's giving permits, or make sure, in other words, the more thorough you are in anticipating what the little glitches are, obviously the more viable your project is. And as we've been hearing from the others, if you can see if you're partnering with folks that are not like you, so that you're making sure that you've got diverse kinds of partnerships and you're working in different kinds of environments. This was to be a program that kind of pushed people out of their comfort zone into working differently, and I'm sure it's pushed the government out of its comfort zone, working differently and working with different kinds of organizations and groups on the ground. So that's what, otherwise we wouldn't, why would we all do this? We should be trying to do things differently and do it better and learn differently. And so I appreciate that. So Andy, you're hearing a whole bunch of voices here, kind of giving you some on the ground kind of feedback. Any thoughts before I ask them a general question about sort of the future? You got anything you want to throw in at the moment?
So before we go to the future, maybe just a quick
yes,
thought.
You can stay in the past, Andy. You go ahead.
I'm just going to live in the past. You should see my record collection. Anyway, I just a brief note about sort of the inception of all of this. We can all think back to just about a year ago when we were all indoors and looking out the windows and seeing our main streets and sidewalks evacuated of people, just absolutely quiet out there. And inside, people dying to get out, dying to connect with their friends and family, dying to connect with their local retailers and so forth. And what started to happen organically, not just in Canada, but around the world, was people started in community to think about their public space differently and find ways to do pop-up bike lanes or widen a sidewalk or have a safe outdoor retail bazaar in a park or something like that. And that's exactly what we wanted to try to accelerate through this. And I just want to say this, like this theme of equity and inclusion has been so strong throughout this. I've been a planner for a great many years, and I'm really used to looking at the world through that kind of urban design, physical design, the way that public spaces accommodate people. That's all very second nature to me. But what I've learned on this job, and in particular through this program, is putting that equity lens on this as well. So I'm like lifelong learner. This has changed the way that I think about and practice urbanism. We planners like to do these things called tactical urbanism projects. I always tell my students, the planning students, that to be a really good planner, you need to be a little bit subversive sometimes. You need to get out there and kind of make the changes that you want to see in the world. And tactical urbanism is a way to do that. And CHCI is really kind of a way to propel tactical urbanism interventions in our communities, but in this inclusive way. So we're so glad and grateful to have Jay Pitter join the team and to bring that worldview and to really like fundamentally improve the delivery of this project. And I just want to say thanks to her. I don't think she's on the call today, but I'll leave it there and we'll get back to a great discussion. Oh, one last thing, Mary. I just realizing Emma and I work in the same building, about 40 feet away from each other. So Emma, great to see you.
You're going to stop on the floor so that she, the old knock 3 times and on the ceiling if you love me. Oh, the wall. Okay, then. Yeah. Yes, well, Jay has been Jay is a fellow with CUI, but she is an author and a placemaker and working in various North American contexts. And she has challenged, I think, all of us to think very differently about this and to engage. And as Minnie said, I would expect that Jay's expectation would be that we'd do better than 3.5%, because as you suggested, people of color, Black people, have been disproportionately affected by COVID, as have other racialized communities. But it's also true that those neighborhoods, if you do a map of them, you will see that they are not necessarily well served by public space or the kinds of things that Andy just suggested. We had a session a couple of days ago on global placemaking. Some of you may have joined. It was a City Talk session in anticipation of this. And we had people from Johannesburg and from different parts of the world commenting. And one of the comments that was made is that placemaking can be seen as something only for leafy neighborhoods. That was the expression that Ayanda used from South Joburg, and said, it's got to be about everybody. And so I also wonder if we can challenge people on the call who are getting ready to submit for round 2, to look further afield look at neighborhoods that may first of all, neighborhoods that may really lack public space, and also you may not realize a parking lot or some kind of an empty vacant space can be reused. There are different ways to do it. The other thing I think has been interesting about this program, and Veronique, you mentioned it, in terms of the range of programs applications you were looking at, and some were health-based, some were on street-based, some were main streets, some were technology, and all of this idea of how we create connection, that it's about connectivity of different kinds. And I think that's an interesting, I don't know how, I'm old, so I don't know how to get my brain fully into that, but you know what I mean? It's going to be connections of all different kinds. And that's one of the rich things about this program, is to think differently about how we connect, not only with people that are like us, but people who are different from us, bring a different kind of perspective. So as you look forward, and you're, let's say a year from now, it's May 2022, everything is different, it's all good. What do you think the legacy of a program like this could look like? If you went out your front door, what might you see that would look different? I'm going to go to you first, Veronique. Do you have a little dream there that you'd like to see could be possible a year from now through this kind of an intervention?
Oh, yes, absolutely. You know, one thing we realized is that, and I'm assuming it's similar in other parts of this great country, but in Saskatchewan, we spend 6 months of our year indoors. And one thing we realized
it's a little chilly for 6 months. You're probably, are you as warm as we are? What's the temperature where you are today?
Yeah, today it's 20, so we're happy.
Woo-hoo! Enjoy
Finally out of winter. But when we think about, you know, the time we spend indoors, this pandemic has also shown us we need to have greater outdoor opportunity that are safe, that we can use, you know, during the cold -30 below, you know, temperatures, etc. And so it's brought that to the forefront that, you know, although we've geared everything to being safe indoors, we needed to look at being safe outdoors.
Yeah.
And how do we do that when it's 30 below? What can we do to have those kind of places?
You know, what's interesting is to think, you know, this time it was indoors was dangerous. You know, next time, who knows what our maybe next time outdoors is going to be dangerous. So this is how we have to kind of move our mindset to kind of be really adaptable and flexible, right? You can open the windows, you can shut the windows, you can get a roof, you can,
It also outlined, so there's that, and then it outlined for us that, you know, rural communities also have needs, and often, you know, they've been forgotten in many programs. And this was a program that said, you know, it doesn't matter the size of your community. If you have a great idea, if you have something that will bring your community together safely, it's worth looking at.
Yeah.
And so that for me was a big takeaway. Looking into the future, I see things that Jean-Philippe mentioned this. So we're looking at a bit of transient things, but some of these transient things hopefully will become permanent because they're good. They're really good initiatives. And so they're good for now, but they're also good for the future. They respond to a now need, but with a view to the future. And so that's, to me, is the beauty of this, is we're responding to a current need with the future in mind.
Yeah, you know the old story, you want to get your foot in the door, right? You want to create a kind of wedge that says, wait, we won't ever do that. We won't ever do that the old way ever again. Why would we, right? Emma, when you look at the kind of prospect for you, and I'm interested what Veronique mentioned about urban and rural. You know, I run something called the Canadian Urban Institute, but it's not the Cities Institute, it's the Urban Institute. And there are lots of small communities and even rural communities that have a kind of urban sensibility. They have a place where we gather. And I'm interested, Halifax, I know, for instance, is a large regional municipality and it has rural and urban in its confines, right? So have you observed anything there that you've learned or that you think would be useful in terms of the urban rural comparisons and how to learn from one another on that?
Yeah, I think the use of space and the understanding even of this program was a really, really interesting one, right? The differences between improving spaces or creating spaces, thinking about digital access in terms of providing internet cafes versus having loaning libraries where people are borrowing Chromebooks or other types of resources along those lines. So certainly we saw fantastic projects in both urban and rural contexts, and many looking similar and many looking different. I think to pop off of Veronique's point, a really, really valuable one around some of the strongest applications we saw were those that respond to the current needs but are future proofed, right? That it's something that will serve the community now and forever. It's safe and accessible and wonderful now, but is able to be built upon and to serve the community in the long term. So excited to see more projects like that in round two.
It's interesting too that this notion of resilience, you know, which is the sort of common term. I was in New Orleans after Katrina and started to learn and hear about resilience before everybody was yakking about it. This is 15 years ago. And it was this idea, though, that you've just espoused, that you would never make an investment in something that only delivered one benefit. So if you need and I know the minister is very determined about climate change and saying that's probably the next disaster we're going to have to face. Any investment that you want to make to contain stormwater or cope with the urban heat effect or these kinds of climate change things should also encourage livability, should also deliver social benefits, and all these things have to somehow stitch together this through line that Minnie is suggesting. It's got to foster inclusion, right? And so, Minnie, as you look to the future, and a year from now, you wander into you wander around your neighborhood or go visit some folks, what will you be looking for that will tell you that we made some progress with this?
That's a great question, Mary. I think for me, I would love to see spaces, public spaces where I see myself there, people like me who look like me are, can relate to these spaces, right? And spaces that, when you walk in there, you feel comfortable, you feel peace was created for you and not just for people like myself. I talk about Indigenous people, we're talking about groups from the LGBTQ plus and other groups, other equity seeking groups. So I think that would be part of success. That is what I would love to see when I step out a year from now into those spaces. Yeah.
Yeah, I'm with you that you would see more of different kinds of folks. And I mean, one of the things, again, if we're going to pull from this experience and really learn in a wise way, one of the things that I know many people would comment on is that when you're on the streets right now, if you do go out, Andy was saying, not a lot of people go out, but when you do go out, you notice more people that live on the street. You notice more people that are actually who need different kind of mental health supports or social services. And I'm hopeful that we're not going to forget that our community is made up of a bunch of different kinds of folks in different kinds of circumstances. And we need to have flexible responses to that. So even though encampments may bother people, it's a way that the community has been able to respond. It's not a sustainable response, but I think we have to keep all of those pieces in mind that you're suggesting, and so that we don't just see ourselves, we see everyone else. And people feel welcome, right? Streets are so important to public safety too. An empty street is a dangerous street. A busy street, it's crowded, but it's going to be a lively place. Jean-Philippe, you're an urban planner, and you just talked about streets, and you have a division called Rue Principale, which we know well at CUI. How do you think the street should look different a year from now? What would you hope for?
En fait, je l'ai mentionné un petit peu.
Well, I mentioned it earlier. Of course, the transit infrastructure in streets is very, very important. And I think that the focus is, we're focusing on spaces that are outside of the street. But I believe that more and more we will have to focus on the street itself. The street, the asphalt itself. In 1 year, I'd like to be able to say that some transient projects that were set up on some of our main streets or some of our neighborhood streets, whether they're residential or in a big city or in a small community, can be can be more secure for people walking and biking. We talked about community, but also technical safety, meaning that we need space so that pedestrians can circulate, that people can circulate in a safe way. And the way to do that, we need to reduce the space used by cars, and it is possible to do that. And I truly believe in the strength of demonstration. That's why the project, and in fact the initiative that is being created today, is important because it allows our communities to demonstrate what is possible. And the perfect street in 1 year, well, in my opinion, will be much more welcoming. And to do that, we need to give space to human beings, not just to one type of user of the street, which is the driver of a car, or other types of very specific people. And I'd even say that the street, as we speak, was designed for a white male between 30 and 40 years old using a car.
That's you.
So we need to explore all these possibilities around the street.
Jean-Philippe is the white male between 30 and 40, unless you're very well preserved and even older. Yeah, I hear you about this. I mean, it wouldn't be a city talk, wouldn't be a CY city talk kind of discussion if we didn't have somebody say, what about cars? What are we gonna do about cars? You know, a lot of families need cars. A lot of families need cars to get their kids to whatever, or get themselves to work or whatever, but we're moving, we're changing. I wanna just add a little reflection of my own. I would love it if one of the things that we see a year from now is that we're not building big wide streets in cities anymore, that we're actually repurposing some. If I think of some of the streets in the outer suburbs in cities across the country and how they are 4 lanes, and that nobody managing a stroller or older can get across those darn things. And, you know, we could repurpose those. We could create beautiful boulevards in the middle. We could turn them in, as Andy was suggesting, they could become kind of party spaces or celebration spaces, or again, my experience in New Orleans, the streets became the place where you protest. The great civic movements in the world have taken place in the street. This is where democracy lives, is in the street. So I hope we see lots of stuff happening on streets, to rethink that, and that the streets are ours, you know, they're public. Big chunk of public space in any community is actually the streets. And as you suggest, Jean-Philippe, not just guys your age, but gals my age who drive cars. We don't own those streets. People own those streets, right? So cities are for people. One thing I want to just suggest before I turn to Parliamentary Secretary Fillmore to take us home is there are other government programs that may in fact be possible places for these projects for you to be thinking about where else you could get some investment to match. So if you go to that federal budget, you'll be able to see lots of suggestions around Main Street improvement and Main Street investment, downtown recovery. There's the Canada Community Revitalization Fund. There's the Canada Green Communities Fund, which Andy just announced. The point that you made about Jean-Philippe about transit, heavens to Betsy, folks, we're going to spend billions in Canada on transit and new bridges and new roads and sewers that we need. And let's make sure that when that money, that's just going to happen. Look what's happening in the US, it's going to happen here. Let's make sure that when we spend that, we also add places. We add just what Emma was saying, not just one use, but we put a great park there, or we create affordable housing there with a really great shared space, or we do what the Hope Project was talking about taking gardens and engaging young people and doing that kind of thing. These are moments where we're going to see an investment from the public and the private sector to rebuild the country. And we all have to join arms and make sure that those investments create better places. It's a real moment. Andy, before I go to you, just a plug, as you know, round 2 opens today. On the 18th, there's a session on how to apply for those of you that are newcomers, and I see there's a few of you that aren't old veterans. Some folks in the chat, this is your first one, welcome. You can go to a session on the 18th and learn how to apply. And then there are many, many mobilization sessions where all the partners are going to get engaged again. And just, I don't want you to forget, we're building a movement, folks. It's going to last longer than this program, where we get placemaking happening across this country like nobody's ever seen, so that we do, as Minnie suggested, we don't just build back the same, we build back better, more equitable, fairer, more beautiful, more everything. Okay, Andy, over to you to say the last final words. I just want to thank everybody for joining, and thanks to our tireless interpreters and translators. and everybody online and the CFC folks and the CUI folks. Okay, Andy, over to you.
Okay, thanks, Mary. Oh, I'm just so thrilled to spend a little time with these brilliant co-panelists here. Such interesting people with such good things to say. Thank you for allowing me to share a little bit of time with you. Mary, thanks as always for your incredible energy and vision. It's wonderful to spend time with you as well. I hope we can continue to do this kind of work together. The last remark I want to make is about that legacy piece that you talked about, the future. And if I could just say, like, I think a really good outcome for me would be two things. One is, Jean-Philippe, and you started to talk about it, the way that we use our public spaces differently, the way that we use streets differently. Canadian cities changed over the last year. We reallocated space for human beings away from cars. And let's all try not to let that revert back. Let's keep the ground that we captured. And I hope that this program will help us to do that. So that's sort of like a long-lasting legacy, I think, is a rethink of using the public space that citizens own. It's ours, those streets, to put it more for human beings. Like the wise urbanist said, I don't even know which one it was, if you design a city for cars, you get a city full of cars. If you design a city for people, you get a city full of people. And that's what we want to do here. The other legacy piece, I think, is the way that we conceive of these projects. This project was fundamentally about getting people in communities on the ground, facing the problem from this close, to come up with the solutions, not in a way that government decides, because we're not good at those kind of granular problems. So this kind of community consultation, empowering local voices from whatever their background or situation in the community is, to let them design outcomes that are going to make their lives better. I think if we can remember that and move forward with everything that we do from this point forward in our lives, we will have really changed things for the better in the world. So thank you all. Thanks to the great team at CFC, to CUI, to the interpreters, to the panelists, and to everybody who tuned in today. We have big ambitions for this program. It's a lot of sort of big thinking. I know that many of you are in the cut and thrust of the applications and deadlines and why haven't I heard back? Those things are important, but stick with it, because there are really big things at play here. And thank you for being a part of it.
We're going to recover Canada from the ground up, folks. So just places matter. All of you do. Thanks for all that you do. Andy, thanks for joining us. Emma, Minnie, Veronique, Jean-Philippe, everybody else. Thanks for joining us. See you in a couple of days on the next one.
Thank you.
Good weekend.
Bye.